What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the TB Toycast YouTube channel. And today we are going back into the world of the Tales of the Toy Box, dropping new episodes about once a month right here on the channel. This is episode 5, and you read that correctly. Today is going to be all about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This is a line that I'm actually currently really into right now. I've been recollecting the Masterverse figures, kind of been diving into those. You'll see more of those popping up on the channel in unboxing videos. But He-Man, was a huge part of the early 80s. And a few years ago, the Toys That Made Us did an episode on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And it was pretty wild to hear the story of kind of how it all came to be. And it was just this idea that they created, and it led to a global phenomenon where we still have He-Man figures, 40 years later? Pretty incredible, really, when you think about it. And, a lot of kids, I'm sure you guys, if you were of that age, these were a little bit before my time, but my cousins had a bunch of them, so I always kind of played with theirs. But I remember, you assume that these figures are based off of the cartoon. And in reality, when you watch the Toys That Made Us, you're like, no, it's just a bunch of stuff that they created. And then they did the mini comic to kind of get people in tune with the characters. They did the cartoon to sell the toys. Pretty wild when you think about it, but there's something so special about these. Even just looking at this first wave, I'm just like, wow, so cool. And of course, we know that He-Man has had several different reiterations, from Masters of the Universe Classics to the 2000X line, to today with the Origins, and now with the Masterverse. And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down anytime soon, which I'm definitely happy about. I hope, give us all the He-Man. That's all I say. Give us all the He-Man, and I think it's awesome. But of course, as we dive into these, 8 figures make up Wave 1, and it's kind of a who's who of classic He-Man characters. And really, you can't start this line out with anyone other than the one and only He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. That classic blonde hair, and I mean, just that face is so iconic. Of course, he's in his battle gear there. He's got the mini comic packed in, and of course, he's got a shield and a battle axe, and then half of the power sword. That was always kind of an interesting thing, and I thought that was really cool that they did recreate that for the Origins line. Just a fun little thing. I never knew that as a kid, because I never remember having too many of these. In fact, oddly enough, I'll tell a quick story about this. When I was to the age of getting my own toys, the rumor going around was that He-Man was evil, and you shouldn't let your kids play with it. It's evil, it's bad, and blah, 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 blah. And I was very young. My mom was a new mom, and also young herself, and kind of bought into it. And so I never really had any He-Man toys. I did play with my cousins, which to me is like, okay, well, what's the big difference? But again, a classic good versus evil story, but it was what it was. But I love the carding on these. The Masters of the Universe logo with the kind of the rocks and the blue into the red, and that kind of almost chrome look to the logo, always really cool. And what a name, He-Man. In fact, as a kid, I never called this Masters of the Universe. Never once. And I remember as I got older and then into the world of the internet, and you got into message boards and things like that, I kept seeing Motu. Motu. I'm thinking, like, what the heck is Motu? What does that mean? And then it turns out I was like, oh, Masters of the Universe. Oh, okay, He-Man. I get it. Yeah, so just one of those wild things, that is for sure. Then we got another really fun character, the one and only Man-at-Arms. Always a classic. Of course, he's got the green kind of undersuit with the armor over the chest and the arm, and that big, almost like a scepter-looking weapon. Kind of He-Man's second in command. In fact, this one does not have a mustache. I always remember him with the mustache. Now, doesn't look like either version in Wave 1 had a mustache. They may have re-released it later on. I'm not 100% sure on that. But again, classic character. He's also got some armor for his ankle. Now, they're very smart what they did with a lot of these, where a lot of these are kind of tooled from the same body. Because if you look at He-Man's body and Man-at-Arms' body, I don't think there's any difference. But the armor's different, which is, removable and stuff, of course. But very, very, very smart. Of course, it's got the classic mini comic. Again, I think that was awesome. Man-at-Arms, Master of Weapons. Figure twists for a power punch, which is exactly what He-Man did. So, coincidence? I don't think so. And then, of course, if we're going to talk about some of the heroes, we got to dive into some of the villains. And this one has always been one I loved. I gravitated to this one a lot as a kid. Another one was Grizzler. He's not in this wave, so I'll go ahead and mention him. But and that is the one and only Beastman. I loved Beastman. He was just such a cool looking figure. Of course, twist arm for a power punch. That's probably going to be a running theme here. He's got his big whip and of course I don't know, the shawl, maybe you'd say. He's got the shoulder armor, and of course the orange fur, and just that classic, just growl look on his face. Really, really cool. But Beastman, always a fun character, and definitely one I always enjoyed. I just always thought he was such a fun addition to the Masters line. And again, I think what made this line so fun is how unique it was. And to me, it's very important to have uniqueness to these lines. We should point out that Man-at-Arms had a couple of variations. He had gray dots on the helmet and red dots on the helmet. Probably a running change at the factory, and nothing too crazy beyond that. Just one of those things, was what it was. Next up, we got one of my favorite villains, the one and only Merman. Oh my gosh, he's like the master of the sea, the ocean warlord, as they call him. I guess his original name was going to be Seaman, but they found out Merman worked a little bit better. Just this guy looks so creepy, right? And I think that was the key. It's just like, ugh, look at this guy, you know. And of course, he's got figure twists for a power punch. It's probably going to be pretty common here with a lot of these. He's got his big kind of sea-looking sword, and I guess there's a couple of variations here, whether it's a green belt or a orange belt just on the figure. Probably, again, running change on the factory, or they just simply made a change. Not a huge deal, I wouldn't think, on the original Masters figures, but very, very cool. And to me, an amazing villain. And I think it's one of those things, to get all these good villains is what makes this line so cool. But yeah, Merman was always a favorite of mine. I just recently picked up his Masterverse figure, and I'm just like, oh, can't wait to unbox that one. So cool. Going back with some more of the heroes here. How about Stratos? Never a big fan of this guy. I don't know. He didn't do much for me. He's the winged warrior. Of course, he's got the big wings. He's got the big sunglasses. He's got, of course, the figure twist for a power punch, just like the rest of them. And I don't know. He's like kind of like a bird-looking guy. I like the name. He does have some variations. You can get him with blue wings or with red wings. Probably, again, it looks like his armor changes too. If it's the blue wings, you get the red armor. If it's the red wings, you get the blue armor. So not a lot of difference on the figures, of course. Again, he comes with the mini comic and everything else, but it's just, I don't know. The character didn't do a lot for me. I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but if I was picking up He-Man figures, this would probably be the one I would not necessarily care if I got. There's one other character that doesn't do a lot for me, but yeah, Stratos, I don't know. I can't say that he does it for me, but again, still a cool figure. Not a bad addition to the line. And again, I like that these are all unique. I think that does add a nice element to it. And we also got Teela. You need a female character. This one's very interesting because obviously completely new molds here. Nothing you can reuse being a female character. She's got her armor of like the headpiece, the shield, and the big staff. Teela, obviously, a nice way to get some girls to collect some Motu. And probably if you're a young boy with a younger sister, you can kind of talk her into Teela, so you don't have to buy it, but you can still have it for the collection. She's, of course, got the mini comic, and she also has the Power Punch feature, which is fun. But yeah, Teela, probably the most famous female Motu character up to this point, because we haven't seen She-Ra yet, we haven't seen Evelyn yet, but yeah, Teela definitely a popular one, and kind of cool to get a female. Like there was always the April O'Neils and the Pink Ranger. There was always that female iteration in these big properties, so it was kind of cool to get Teela. She also has two variations. You can get her with brown boots, or you can get her with red boots. Again, probably not a lot different, just simply running changes in the factory, or maybe they ran out of paint. I don't know if there was a lot of thought put into it back then, just slight differences. I guess if you're a completist, you have to get both, but to me, one would be perfectly fine. So this last character, also a character it didn't do a lot for me, and that is Zodak. The Cosmic Enforcer, he also has the Power Punch. I do like his mask. I think that is really cool. I feel like that's a little bit based upon the early rendition of He-Man. If you watch the Toys That Made Us, he talks about there was like a space man head and a tank head, and then kind of a barbarian, and that's the one they went with. But I feel like Zodak's kind of based a little bit off the space head, a little bit. Which he used a Boba Fett helmet just to try to get it done. But of course, he's got the mini comic. He does have a Power Punch figure twist for a Power Punch action. He's got his armor. I don't know, and he's got a blaster gun, which makes sense. I don't know. Zodak just never did it for me. I do like the figure. I have the Origins figure. I do plan to get him in the Masterverse line, but it just is one that never did much for me. Don't know. We all have our favorites, right? But the rest of the line, like I said, and I think if you compare him to like a Merman, a Beastman, a He-Man, or a character I'm getting ready to talk about, you can kind of see where he maybe falls short. But I think this last one is probably going to go down as one of the greatest action figure characters of all time, probably one of the greatest villains of all time, and I think a big reason why the Masters line was so successful. And I'm talking about one of the greatest villains ever. I'm talking about Skeletor. The Lord of Destruction. Of course, he's got his power punch. He has the mini comic. The light blue, the purple, the greenish skeleton face. I mean, this guy, he was a little scary, honestly. If you're a 5 or 6 year old kid, might be like, ugh, I don't know. Like, he just had that scariness to him. Of course, he's got the other half of the power sword, and he's got the big Skeletor staff. I mean, just an absolutely amazing, amazing villain. I don't know if it gets better than Skeletor. He's right up there with, like, Shredder as far as just iconic villains. And honestly, with the Power Rangers, I think up until Lord Zed, like, Rita was okay, but Lord Zed was better. Skeletor's got that Lord Zed vibe where you're just like, ooh, I don't know. He does have 2 versions. You can get him with half boots or with full boots. Looks like just half the boot was painted, so I don't even know if anyone would even want that. That sounds like more of a factory defect than a rarity, as it were. But again, I love the Masters line. I think it's so much fun. I love that they brought back Origins. I don't think it necessarily set a lot of worlds on fire on retail, but I feel like it's doing pretty well on Mattel Creation, so I hope they keep going with it. The Masterverse line has really won me over the last couple of years. I'm glad I got back into collecting it. And it's been brought up a couple of times that how cool would it be if when they bring back DC in 2026, that they put those in kind of the scale of the Masterverse. I think that'd be awesome. We're seeing a lot of crossovers today, Masters and Thundercats, Masters and Ninja Turtles, now Masters and Transformers. I think Masters and DC would also be a really fun crossover, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But let me know in the comments down below, are you a Motu fan? Do you collect any of the Masters of the Universe figures? Do you like the the classic stuff, the current stuff? There's also a new Masters of the Universe movie coming out, I believe next year. Maybe this year, I don't know. Maybe it's 2026. I haven't looked at it, honestly, but it's supposed to be coming out soon. I've seen pictures of them filming it, so it can't be too far behind. And then, of course, the classic 1987 film with Dolph Lundgren way back in the day. They've actually been making figures of that, which is kind of cool in the Masterverse line. Again, the Masterverse I thought was kind of a fun concept, considering they're hitting like everything. Like, it can be New Adventures, it can be New Eternia, it can be Revelation, it can be Revolution, it can be anything, or even the old 87 movie. One would assume they're probably going to make figures of the new movie as well. So, but very, very cool. Love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And definitely excited to put it here on Tales of the Toy Box. But of course, check out the other Tales of the Toy Box episodes. Episode 1 was all about G.I. Joe Street Fighter. Really fun episode. Episode 2 all about WWF Hasbro. Episode 3 all about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Series 1. Episode 4 all about Toy Biz X-Men Series 1. And then, of course, today, Masters of the Universe. Check out all my unboxing videos. I'm doing 3 unboxing videos every single week on the channel. Also check out What's on the Pegs, dropping every Saturday to see what I'm finding out there in my toy hunts. And of course, don't forget the TB Toycast podcast, our flagship, but going over 200 episodes and counting. Check that out as well. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you guys for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel and Tales of the Toy Box, all about Masters of the Universe. I have the power, and we will see you in the toy aisle.
Yeah. One more time. It ain't over till I say it's over. So lock the cage up, cause this is a takeover. The wait's over. If this the final time we meet, then you'll be on your back on my feet. Then I'll tip the cage over as a hangover. I'm super fly so I can splash off the top. And I can shut down the shot.